Y'all, Wizard101 just announced what could be one of the biggest healing changes ever. This could affect PvP greatly. It might even affect PvE just a tad. Now, all this info is from Ratbeard's stream on Twitch. He's a dev that works on Wizard101. Super transparent stuff, talking about stuff like this with viewers. I'll link the VOD where this happened in the description. But before we jump right into the details of what could be a huge healing change, let's talk about why healing needs a change. If you log on to Wiz and look at the leaderboards, you'll notice that it is kind of overrun. The first 2 pages, kind of overrun by life wizards. Now, is this because every other person on every other school is some hot cheeks? Or is it because that life might be kind of severely overtuned right now? I would argue it's the latter. Now, there's 2 reasons why there's a bunch of lives getting ranked much more easily than every other school. It is just an easier school in general. There are people that, do not actually try to, set up like a gambit, for example. Not that the gambits are that good, but they don't even try. And they just heal, spam, and stall, meaning they don't actually try to kill their opponent. They'll basically frustrate their opponent. Basically, their entire basis of their rank is based on getting people to flee by healing so much that they don't want to stay in the game anymore. I've stayed in games, you've seen them uploaded, I've fled many games. This does probably work in the long run because most people don't want to stay in an hour-long match watching someone just goat monk, regenerate hungry over and over and over again. That's one side of things, but also I would argue that there's tons of life wizards that are high up on the leaderboards that aren't regenerate spamming, that aren't jading, but they still have a much easier job, and that's because healing per pip is extremely high. Let's say that you were to use a 5-pip spell on a storm, right? Your damage per pip on a max spellmented Stormzilla, I want to say that's 152 if my math is right. Now let's look at a 5-pip heal. It's clearly double that. So even Storm, the highest DPP school using a 5-pip spell, will get very easily outvalued by someone that's just regenerate spamming. Healing is so powerful that even Doom and Glooms and Infections, if they're using hit and heals, Doom and Glooms and Infections aren't effective enough in reducing the healing component, and you're also taking damage from hit and heals. So people can stall with healing, and even when they don't, healing is very overpowered. The counters just don't keep up with someone who wants to keep spamming heals. So according to Ratbeard, they're not actually going to change healing per pip. And this is an interesting rationale. I'm not sure I agree with it, but basically the idea is that if healing per pip were to be way lower than damage per pip, right? Let's say a regenerate healed way less than a Stormzilla would ever do. Well, then you get into this position where life as a school never gains ground by healing. And while I agree with that to an extent, I still don't think that's a justification for healing per pip being so high above damage per pip. If you put an overtime on your opponent, you could easily get a guiding light while breaking shields with a spell like Nature's Wrath. Life is also one of the schools that has the easiest job keeping bubble control, and they barely take any stat deficits when it comes to pip chance and accuracy on their gear. So what they can do is really they can affix even more bubbles. A lot of people even run this specific pet, the Leaffoot pet, because once you level it up enough, it gives an extra sanctuary card. The second you have a buffed heal, which is, by the way, easier for life to do than, like buffing anything on any school. The second you do that, the healing per pip can be low and you're still keeping up. You're just outplaying your opponent with tools that are much easier for you than anyone else. Bubble control is much easier for life than any other school. But I have also played in metas where healing is absolutely ass, and I can see why you might want healing per pip to somewhat keep up with damage per pip. I don't think it needs to be like double or whatever it is right now, almost double. I think they could make it lower without it being a serious nerf to life. So not touching healing per pip at all, if that is the approach that they're taking, kind of weird. Let's talk about what they are doing. And this is where the story really is. According to Ratbeard, they're going to be limiting your ability to reshuffle heals into your deck over and over again. What does that mean? Let's say that I packed, I don't know, for some reason or another, I've decided to pack 4 regenerates, right? What they're going to be doing to this, basically, they're going to be making it so that once you use a regenerate, let's say that you use a reshuffle, you're not going to see that regenerate after that shuffle anymore. And because so many of these heals are already banned from treasure cards, that means you'll have an actual acting copy limit on healing. For the first time ever, we're going to see something like that. That's really cool, y'all. That means people that are interested only in stalling, they're probably not going to be able to do it anymore. Eventually, there will be an end to their stalling. I think it is worth noting that copy limits on decks should also be looked at if you're really going to institute copy limits on healing. there are still Dark War decks that give 10 copies for life. What's stopping me from literally putting this on and, you know, I could just like, you know, decide I don't want to fight my opponent. There is nothing, even with a copy limit on healing, there's nothing stopping me from making a deck like this and filling my side deck with, you know, literally just shields, weaknesses, and empowered. There's nothing stopping me from just doing this and just not playing the game. That's what a lot of people are doing right now. It's how a lot of people are ranking up. People that want to stall with a deck like this, they could still do it even if they can't reshuffle their regens back, because 10 regens is still quite a bit. To me, I honestly think it just depends. Like, if they could just, like, you know, get rid of these Dark War decks, that would honestly, and do this, that would be really cool, right? You can't stall out games, and you won't be able to carry decks that allow you to put in like 10 copies of a heal. I think 6 is more than enough. If you need more than 6 regenerates to heal against somebody, I don't really think you have a strategy that's worth anything in PvP. The other thing that they're considering, and this might actually affect PvE, is that they're probably going to be moving away from burst heals in general in terms of advanced content. So spells like Pigsy that have a big heal at the beginning and a lower, you know, heal over time component, and obviously a spell like Regenerate, which still is a gigantic burst heal at the beginning, even though its overtime component's bigger. These are going to have more of their healing, according to Rapid, moved over to the OT part. This makes a lot of sense. The OT part is what you can actually counter after the fact. If you want to steal a Pigsy heal with Gearhead, for example, why would you do that right now when so much of the heal is immediate, right? You can now do this. So maybe Pigsy won't be something you can use to stall games if more of the actual healing is on the second half of it. Same with Regenerate, right? Counters actually would work on this if the immediate heal on this didn't just do the same damage as a counter. None of these changes are set in stone, but I'm glad that Wiz is finally doing something about this. What I really hope, obviously, is that regular casual PvE is not affected by this. I'm gonna be honest, if they change Pigsy, you're still gonna have a no PvP path that's super viable, and if you're doing like raids or advanced content, it's still probably gonna do the same amount of healing, and if anything, it's probably gonna be better for that, because I believe the more healing they put on OTs, the higher the chance it gets protected. So you'll have a protected heal for Pigsy. Probably not the worst thing for PvE. It's probably a buff for PvE. And as also far as like limiting the number of your ability to reshuffle heals back into your deck, I do think it might affect like life wizards that are soloing stuff, but that just comes down to deck building. And you could also pack TCs in PvE that have nothing to do with PvP, right? You can still pack like Regenerate, and it wouldn't be a big deal. So as long as you use your TCs well, and, you know, just, you know, look at the spellman paths that you want to use, I doubt this would actually affect PvE, but also it would make your spells much more important to choose from in PvP. You can't just heal spam forever anymore, which I think is a really good thing. Maybe this would actually make life not broken and stalling all the time. I'm gonna be honest, the way people stall in PvP, I'm not even convinced that this is enough. I think this is just the start. I still think the fact that healing per pip with outgoing being 74% as just the normal, like this is the norm, 74 outgoing with like 200 healing per pip, this seems to be the norm. I'm still not sure I'm comfortable with that. I still think healing per pip or outgoing is still too high, because frankly, you still see people goat monking through infections and gaining value. I think that's stupid. I think if you're hitting into like a weakness and an infection, a spell like this should not be as good as a base hit that the opposing school sends. So maybe Doom and Gloom needs to be better, maybe infection needs to be better, maybe healing per pip needs to be lower, and maybe outgoing needs to be lower. These are all things that I still think they should leave on the table, but I'm glad that at least now we might be able to look forward to some sort of healing nerf, so PvP is a little bit more playable. Let me know what you guys think of the potential upcoming changes to healing. I think a lot of these are gonna make it into test realm. I see no reason why not. It's needed. And if it were up to you, how would you fix the healing problem that's persisting in PvP? As always, drop a like if you enjoyed, leave us up a review, and if somebody hasn't told you you're awesome today, they doing something wrong. Stay awesome. See y'all soon. And yeah.